great. I'm here at an economic summit called the Rocky Mountain Economic Summit. And ironically, I'm moderating a 1-hour session on longevity. So let me speak to both because they correlate. First and foremost, there's a number of very renowned economists here. There's certainly some of the finest minds on Wall Street that are all gathered here for 2 days. There's about 200 folks here. And I heard from probably 12 economists yesterday. And the consensus was as follows: if we're not already in a recession, and there was some debate about that, and we certainly heard from a number of the Global Investment Committee members, as well as Fed, a couple of regional Fed chairs, okay? But the consensus is as follows. If we head into a recession, if we're not already in one, it'll be by year end and would likely and logically wrap up by the end of 23. So relatively short-lived, as most recessions are. The average recession is like 9 to 12 months, 15 would be long for a recession, and the average market expansion is 3 or 4 times longer than a recession, and they are necessary. I want you to think and celebrate a recession as a way that the market corrects for excesses. We are seeing inflation now at 40-year highs, and yet we're seeing unemployment at record lows right now. A lot of jobs wanted signs. A lot of you can't find people to come work for you. And there's a reason for that. So we're experiencing stagflation. Stagflation simply is a period of time with slow growth and high inflation. So our GDP numbers, while still positive in the low single digits, are coming down, and yet inflation has gone up. And we just got some disappointing numbers in inflation, over 9%. And the Fed was quick to respond that much higher than they had expected. They were expecting it to go down. So you're going to see the Fed get aggressive in raising rates, probably another 75 basis points, could be a point. Some think the Fed may be chasing inflation at this point. Some think the Fed were late. Maybe they were by 6 months or so. But we just went through a very unprecedented time. And the fact that we're all sitting here healthy, upright, having gone through a pandemic, the likes of which we've never seen, which had no solution, and came up with a solution, and we're able to now start to get our lives back together, and for our government to step in and frankly take an unprecedented risk in printing money to sustain the economy temporarily. So a democratic socialist approach was taken temporarily to support a capitalist system. We're now letting the capitalist reins of fiscal and monetary policy decouple, right? But for a period of time, fiscal and monetary policy were merged, and it was very unusual. So what next? Well, the Fed's going to work very hard to bring down inflation by using, if you will, the levers it has, and it takes time, chopping wood, right? And you're going to see demand drop off, and hopefully you're also going to see the price of commodities fall further, and hopefully we'll see wage growth stabilize, because it's not healthy. Stagflation is not a healthy place to be. So any kind of recession or correction is very healthy. It clears out the dead wood and hopefully restores some level of stability in the economy. This isn't sustainable. I want you to think about a forest fire. Forest fire basically is a natural occurrence. Lightning strikes and a fire starts in a forest, and we used to put them all out in Yellowstone. And you may remember, and about 30 years ago, there was a fire that burned in Yellowstone, the likes which we'd never seen. It burned so hot and so long, and they couldn't put it out. And finally, they finally had to let it put itself out. And all the smoke jumpers and thousands of folks were able to save some structures and buildings, but the fire burned hot and long and heavy. Why? Because they've been putting out the fires for decades. So all this dry underbrush built up. Well, I want you to think of an economy the same way. If you keep pumping money into the money supply, or if you let an economy expand too much, then you're going to have, if you will, a pretty big correction, a pretty deep recession like we experienced in 08, 09. We can't let something like that happen again. So you do need a healthy correction. This is natural, this is cyclical, this is healthy, and hopefully helps restore some stability in wages, prices, and we return to more normalized growth. So this has been a very unusual time. We're all blessed to have lived through it, and yet we also suffered some losses. There isn't anyone I know who didn't lose someone they knew or knew of to this terrible pandemic. And longevity is certainly something that is going to play into this. To your point, Rick, modern science is now finding a way to help us live longer. And in our lifetime, we could live 10, 20, 30 years longer than our predecessors. Want to be financially prepared for it, but two, hopefully it'll help us build resistance to future pandemics.